Hey guys, it's Elena, and today I wanted to show you how to achieve a marble inlay effect in Procreate, something like this, and I will be using my stone and marble brush set to show you, but you can also use any other textured or patterned brushes that you might have and try to experiment and see with what different effects that you can come up with. And I was inspired by a lot of artifacts that you can see in European castles. I've been living in Europe most of my adult life, and so some castles I've been to multiple times because my family members always want to visit when they come to visit me. So I've noticed a lot of details on tables and like artifacts that you'll see in these castles. There's a lot of marble inlay sort of things like this, either animals or birds or flowers, and some different effects like that. So I wanted to just try and do something like that digitally. So I'm going to use a photo. I'm going to go ahead and make a 14 by 11 inch canvas, and then I'm going to import a photo, and I'm going to swipe up from the bottom. I've recently opened my Unsplash app, which is a free images app, and I'm going to drag it over here, and this is a collection that I've made with animals in it. And I'm going to use this bird photo, and I'll go ahead and link to this collection and this photo down below for inspiration for you. So I'm just going to take that photo and drag it in, not as a reference, but underneath of the entire thing. Just close that. Oopsie. Make it big. And good. And I think I'm gonna, I'm just gonna go ahead and make a layer above this. And what I'm gonna do most of the time is that I'm gonna use the selection tool to select the different areas, and then I'm going to fill them with color. And whenever I finish that process, I will go ahead and put in the marble and the stone on top of that. Now that I've got this one layer above, it's very important to do this in the layer above the photo, so you're not actually drawing on the photo, because then you can't really use that for much. So layer above the photo. Before I do the selection, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick a color, and I'm just going to do different areas in different colors and pick the color before I do the selection. So I'm just going to pick that yellow. Then I'm going to go to my selection tool. And on the selection tool, you have a lot of different options down here. Sometimes it'll be on automatic or one of the other ones. But what we want is freehand, because we're going to be drawing the selection. And you want to go to feather and set the feather amount to 1. And that just means that the edges of the selection will not be super jaggedy. They'll be a bit smoother. And if I move it all the way up, it's just going to be completely faded out, and that's not what we want. So 1%. Okay. So now I'm gonna select different areas and draw around them. So I'll just go ahead and start, since I selected that yellow, I'll go ahead and start here. And now that I've got that area selected, I'll go to my layer, tap the layer, and tap fill layer. So now this yellow color that we pre-selected has filled this selected area. So now I'm just gonna keep on doing that throughout the entire image, and just selecting a color from the image and then filling it in blocks along the whole thing. Right here for the eye, it's really fiddly. So I'm just gonna make this whole area black and then put some white bits on top. And then I'll do that red bit over again because it's just a bit difficult on the eye. I've put the photo on top because I filled the whole eye area with black. I put the photo on top and then I've still got this layer underneath even though I can't see it. So I'm just going to do tap and fill just like I did before. You can see I've just put the red bit on there. So I'm just going to do the same with those white bits on the eye as well. So with the eye bits out of the way, I'm just going to go ahead and put this layer on top again. And the rest of it should be fairly straightforward now with the feathers. They should be fairly blocky. So I'm just going to keep on going. So obviously there is a lot of color variation in the photo and there's not just blocks of color. And so when I'm picking a color, I'm being a bit choosy about it and choosing something that I think will look good in that context as a solid color. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off the photo and see what I think about that. I think it works okay. It's not in the center of the canvas, so I'm just going to move it to the center-ish real quick here. And what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm just going to take the eraser and clean up a few small bits like this, and then going to go ahead and add the marble. And I'm just going to take the eraser in my airbrushing soft brush and get rid of this little thing here. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go to my marble and stone brushes, and in this brush set I've got some stone textures, some marble, and then some glitter marble. And I'm going to stick mostly with the stone textures because they've got a lot of really nice variation inside of them. And I could use the eraser with these brushes, but actually I want to have kind of a background on it, and if I did that then it would be semi-transparent. So I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and choose white. So I'm going to select white by double tapping over by the white, and then I'm going to choose a marble brush. I'm going to go ahead and choose stone number 13, and I'm just going to keep choosing different brushes kind of randomly throughout this process, each color in a different kind of stone brush. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the selection tool, and I'm going to go to automatic, and then I'm going to select these different areas. So they're all on the same layer, and so I'm just going to go ahead and select like that. So once it changes color, you know that it's selected. And so now I'm going to go back to my brush with that selection made, make sure I'm in the right brush. I'm in white, so I'm good to go, and add a texture to that lovely head. But actually I'm going to change my brush because I think that was a bit too bright. I want to keep the orange texture. So you can just kind of experiment with different brushes, or even with the same brush again, because a different part of the pattern will come out. I actually like how that looks, so I'm going to keep that. And I'm just going to keep doing the same process, selecting and then going back to the brush, selecting a brush, and then just trying out different marbles and stones on the selected area. Some of these are just so light, this pale yellow and the white obviously, that I'm just going to go ahead and leave them that color. So I'll just select something else now. And this thing goes away every time I use the brush, so I just find the easiest routine for me is to tap it and then tap it again. There's probably a better way, but I don't know what it is. These light feathers down here, these light blue feathers, I'm just gonna actually go ahead and select a bluish grayish color and do the marble in that color just so that it stands out. I'm gonna switch back to white now. Okay, so I pretty much have finished. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this part and this part with a darker, and I'm also this with a darker gray so that it stands out just a bit more. Okay, so with all that done, I wanted to add just a bit of a drop shadow around it. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of gold lining on top. And so I'm gonna duplicate this layer where I've done all of this work and just turn off the last one, and that's just as a backup, just in case anything goes wrong and I've run out of undos. Okay, so I'm gonna go up to my effects and I'm gonna choose bloom layer and turn burn all the way down, and then I'm just going to experiment with the pen going in, turning it on. You can see how it's turning it a bit on here, and it turns on a little bit of a drop shadow. If burn was on, the whole thing would look completely different, but if you turn that off, this is an easy way to get a drop shadow. And I'm just going to experiment with the different settings, turn this one off so that it's kind of shadowy all around. Change the size a bit. And I kind of like how that looks, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to, first I'm just going to go ahead and make another layer on top and put that below, and just put a bit of a marble background on here. And I'm going to go with one of the gray colors from on here, this brownish gray here, and I'm going to choose one of my glitter marbles. Go ahead and try this one out and just make sort of a blob of marble underneath of it. And for the final touch, I'm just going to go back to my bird layer, make a new layer on top. And I'm going to use a brush from my Gold Rush brush set. If you don't have Gold Rush, then you can try this using any kind of metallic brushes that you have, or if you don't want to do metallic, you could always just choose the monoline Procreate brush or any of the other ink brushes and just do some lining with that, or you could just leave it like this. I'm going to go ahead and choose my Gold Rush palette. It's here. I'm going to choose a gold color. I'm going to go to my Gold Rush brushes and choose my glitter sketch pen. And then I'm just going to kind of do a very thin lining around some of these areas to make it look like it's inlaid with gold. So at this point I've realized that somehow I missed putting anything here at all by the look of it, so I'm just gonna fill the whole thing with gold. Why not? One of the reasons why I'm doing the gold like this is because it can help the lines here are not very well done, so it's kind of a way of being more forgiving. Okay, so I think I'm about finished with this. There are probably a lot of different ways of doing this sort of thing, and this is just the way that I do it. But I hope that you enjoy it, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.